جیمز وارد بیرکت، فیلمنامه‌نویس و کارگردان اهل آمریکا. به عنوان بازیگر اما در اپیزود اول سریال اسپشیال یونیت 2 محصول سال 2001، فیلم فرکتیلس محصول سال 2005 و استاپ ات ناتینگ محصول سال 2001 ایفای نقش داشته. ایده پردازی جذاب سگانه دزدان دریایی کارائیب رو تو کارنامه‌اش داشته، به علاوه طراحی سکانس های جذاب این مجموعه. جزئی از تیم نویسندگان و صداپیشگان انیمیشن معروف رنگو بوده، انیمیشنی که موفق به کسب جایزه اسکار شد به عنوان بهترین انیمیشن سال. یکی دیگه از کاراش نوشتن استوری بورد فیلم بیبی درایور بوده. اما یکی از فیلماش که تحسین مخاطبان و منتقدان زیادی رو داشته، فیلم کوهرنس در ژانر علمی تخیلیه. این فیلم داستان 8 دوست رو روایت میکنه که شب عبور یه ستاره دنبالدار دور هم جمع میشن و وقتی که برق قطع میشه داستانهای شگفت انگیز و ترسناکی براشون رخ میده. این فیلم جایزه‌های زیادی رو برده، از جمله بهترین فیلم فستیوال ایمیجین فیلم. در ادامه گفتگوی جذابی خواهیم داشت با این نویسنده و کارگردان آمریکایی. امیدوارم لذت ببرید. Welcome to this interview, Mr. Ward. Thank you for taking this time to do this interview with us.
Thank you.
So, to start, please give us a short introduction of yourself.
Well, I'm Jim Byrkit, and I directed a movie called Coherence, and I made it in my living room of my house, and somehow it ended up going around the world, and now I am very honored to talk to people all over the world about it and see if sometimes it inspires young filmmakers to go off and make their own movies.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. You were conceptual consultant of great movies and had experience with writing, and you also directed a movie. How was it that you decided to direct?
Well, I love directing. Ever since I was a little kid, I would always draw and create stories, and my imagination was just always generating ideas for stories, and I would create picture books when I was very young about big ideas going to the moon or a giant fire that was taking over the world, and the natural evolution of that was to make movies and direct them. Yeah.
As conceptual consultant of Pirates of Caribbean, and after that as a director of an experimental movie, Coherence, can you share your experience at making the Pirates of Caribbean, and is there differences between blockbuster movies and experimental ones?
Oh my gosh, huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference. When you make a blockbuster movie or a big studio movie, you have hundreds and hundreds of people helping you, and you have so much money to make anything happen. And that was what was wonderful about working on Pirates of the Caribbean. I would draw the storyboards for these crazy scenes of Jack Sparrow on a water wheel that's tumbling through the jungle, and then all out of my head. And then a year later, we're actually on an island in the Caribbean, and there's Johnny Depp running on a giant water wheel, just like I drew. And so anything you can imagine, almost anything you can imagine, can come true in a movie today. And that was very exciting and very satisfying to see ideas in your head come alive with so much support, so many great people helping you make it come true. When you make a tiny movie, an independent movie, you don't have any of that support. You don't have any money. Instead of hundreds of people helping you, you might have 4 people helping you.
Yeah.
Or a handful of friends. But the great thing about it is you can do what you want. You are in charge. You don't have to ask the studio, or you don't have to check with anybody. You are the captain of the ship, and you can make decisions instantly to make it the way you want. And that is very satisfying too. So they both have great things about them. When you're small, in a way, I find it, even though it's more challenging, it's more fulfilling when it works.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You have to be okay. A lot of young filmmakers come to me with a plan to make an experimental film, thinking it's automatically going to be, you know, a movie that's going to be in the theaters. But you have to remember, it is an experiment.
Yeah.
And most experiments do not work. That's the point of having an experiment.
Yeah. You were the voice actor and one of the writers of well-praised animation Rango. We would be glad to hear your experience of making a movie with children and young adults as audience. How was it?
Well, Rango is a little different because even though it was animated, we never thought of it as being for kids. Mm-hmm. We thought it was just for us. So Rango, even though it's kind of silly and has talking animals, we never tried to make it for little kids. We never said, oh, what do little kids want to see? We just said, what do we want to see? And so we really had a lot of fun making that. That was a very small group of people making that movie at first. That was the director of Pirates of the Caribbean, Gore Verbinski, and me, and a couple artists, just working in a house, almost like an independent movie. Almost, until we got a studio involved, and then they paid to have a giant animated movie out of it. But the idea was very small, very personal, very meaningful to the people who were making it. And so it was really, really a joy.
Yeah. You worked in the storyboard making with directors like Michael Bay, movies that are categorized in sci-fi genre. Your movie Coherence belongs kind of to this category. What's your opinion on science fiction genre?
I always loved science fiction when I was growing up because it would take my mind to a new world and it would inspire my imagination. So as I got older, I found that it still had the ability to do that, and almost could take it into spiritual places as well, because the borders of science fiction are right on the edge of spirituality, philosophy, religion, these mysteries that we don't know about. So science fiction is really pushing, our knowledge and our imaginations to consider things that are not just the day-to-day, not just kitchen sink discussions about family life, which can be great. But for me, I was always very, very intrigued at the idea of taking the audience to a new place that they had never experienced before.
Yeah. If you agree, I ask you some question about your movie Coherence, which I really enjoyed. Yeah.
Yes. I might not answer all of them because we want to allow the audience, but I will try.
Yeah, no, not like that. I know. I won't take the joy from them.
Okay.
What was your inspiration?
Lack of money. We didn't have any money. So we said, well, what can we do? What can we have to make a movie. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, we have a house. I live in a house and I have some friends that can act. So that's it. I have to write a movie that has my house and some actors that can act. And that was the start.
Yeah, it felt also personal to me. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was standing in my living room and I was thinking how strange it would be to look out the window and just see either myself or somebody else in the room. And I just thought that is, I could do that. You don't need special effects. You don't need crazy expensive things. It's just an interesting, very simple idea.
Yeah.
And at first I thought it was going to be more of a horror movie.
Yeah.
Where they would be finding bodies and getting confused, like, oh, this person's dead, but wait, no, they're still alive. Wait, what's happening? But then as I thought about it more, I thought, no, it doesn't have to be that. It would be more about people slowly figuring out what's going on.
Yeah. Considering this film pointing to Schrodinger's cat's experiment, we would like to know what challenges you had to face when you combined science with cinema.
That is a good question. The first thing I did when I thought about having these fractured realities was just to go research it as much as I could and just read all about it and read about quantum physics and the theories and just take the pieces from that would help the story. And the Schrodinger's cat it's a very popular story. My challenge was to compress the explanation of Schrodinger's cat into the shortest amount possible because it just gets too confusing. So I thought, even though we simplified it a little bit, it actually was a very nice, short way to describe it. And then it somehow also sort of felt like it was describing the people. Some of the people could say, wait a minute, are we in the box? Is that what's happening? So the challenge was to not make it too much explanation, because even today people are like, oh my gosh, your movie was so heady, so complicated. I'm thinking, really? Because there's only like 45 seconds of talking about Schrodinger's cat. There's not that much science in it. And that was another reason why we said, okay, it's just a comet that is making this happen. The comet is more magical than science, right? It's right on the edge because it's a bit of astronomy, but also comets have also been throughout history, even in magical times, looked at as omens or signals or signs. So a comet felt like it was the perfect element that was both scientific and modern, but also very ancient and mythical and magical. So that's some of the challenges where you're trying to make it sound like science fiction, but not too much science.
I guess one of the challenges was that this movie was had very good feedbacks, but it was a low budget movie. Was it hard? Also, was it a challenge working with low budget condition? Was this condition hard for you?
No, because I wrote it to fit. I wrote it to fit our budget. And I said, all right, well, if we have no money, then I'm not going to worry about explosions or car crashes or anything. I really do have a house. And I knew the hardest part was the time, because we only had 5 nights to shoot it, because my wife was pregnant and she was going to have the baby at home. She wanted to have a home birth. And she was like, you only have 5 days, because I'm like preparing the house. And I said, 5, how can I shoot a movie in 5 days? Yeah. That's crazy. And she said, that's all you got. That's all you, either that, or you wait 10 years after, our son is born. So I had to scramble and say, okay, we got 5 nights to shoot it. And it was a couple weeks before she was due to have a baby. We shot it 5 nights. A few days later, the lead actress, Emily, came back to my house and we shot a couple more shots of her like parking the car.
Yeah.
She left my house 2 hours later, my wife
Wow.
had the baby
Wow.
in the same house. So when my wife had the baby, all the camera gear was still in the house from the shoot.
Oh, such a nice story.
Yeah.
In another interview, you mentioned that you chose actors from around the world, so they don't know each other that much. Was this not knowing helping the process of the film, or?
Well, they weren't from around the world. They were just people that I knew that did not know each other. It was not a problem because they were so good that I introduced them and they said, "Oh, hi." And I said, "This is your wife. This is your husband. You two are best friends." And they said, "Okay." And they just started. So no, it was not a problem.
No. So we go to more general questions. Has pandemic affected your working and your creating or your point of view on art?
Well, the biggest change is that all the meetings are online.
Yeah.
Like we're doing now. And that is very difficult.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to rehearse with actors because that rehearsal process really needs to happen face to face. And that needs to get back to where it was, because everything about movie making and acting is about being able to be in the same room and respond and see what's going on. And I don't think it's a good idea to make this video conferencing the norm. I think it's a big mistake.
So who are your favorite directors and writers?
Oh my gosh.
It's always a hard question.
I never have a list ready.
No.
of I should just have a big poster so I can remember. I really love old musicals.
Oh.
I love old movies. I love early movies like Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. I'm fascinated to see how they solved filmmaking problems back then with no technology. They just had the camera and their imaginations. So in a way, that's the closest to what I was doing with Coherence, is that old-fashioned way of approaching it. Just like, here we go, just we got a camera and some people. But I was watching some Harold Lloyd movies lately. I was just amazed at how physical he is. He's doing obviously all his own stunts, and they put a camera on a car and he's just running and trying to jump on the car, and then he falls off the car and then gets back on, but it's all one shot. It's incredible. So I really get inspired by that. And then I just love I love old musicals and how much effort they put into the singing and the choreography and the planning of those. So those really inspire me.
Do you have any new work in progress?
Yes. So during the pandemic, I had a lot of projects that just completely blew up and disappeared. And so I was very lost and thinking, I need to make something. I need to generate another film. And so I decided to create a television series that is inspired by my love of the Twilight Zone.
Oh.
And write an anthology of short episodes, and it's called Shatterbelt. And I had the idea about a year ago, and since then I just finished the 4th episode, just shot it. And so we have 4 episodes of Shatterbelt that are going to be done in a couple months. And each one is sort of a strange, mind-bending little piece, a little bit like Coherence in that it's very natural, the way that people are talking about this strange occurrence. But they're all either about some element of consciousness or reality, or how the universe is put together, or time, or our human will, how it interacts with the world. And so that has just been the most enjoyable project for me, because again, I get to call up my friends, get to put together my own team. It's very independent. Sometimes there's only 4 people in the crew, you know, and there's like 10 actors and 4 crew. So we were able to do that during the pandemic, and just pull something positive out of it.
I can't wait to watch it.
Good. I hope you like it.
Are you going to try, also you already mentioned, but are you going to try making another experimental movie like Coherence again?
No.
No?
No. It's too hard.
Too hard.
And again, you know, experiments are mostly going to fail. So I don't want to do something that has a chance of failing. I want to do something that is ambitious and new, but new in another way, not new because it might collapse. I don't want to work on anything that's going to collapse. I am interested in doing experiments sort of in new ways of telling a story, new ways of having a narrative, or new ways of shooting. But Coherence was so unusual. Coherence should have been a disaster. It really should have been. It you know, inviting people for 5 days to make a feature film, not a good idea.
Could have been. But it wasn't.
So, yeah, so that was a miracle that worked the way it did. If I were to get the resources to make another movie, I would have a crew. I would have, you know, enough money to feed everybody, and enough money to have sets, and enough money to have costumes, enough money to have props. So I would do it in a more supported way so that I could take chances on other things. Yeah.
Considering the condition of the world we live in now, everything, imagine you have a microphone and the whole world can hear your voice. What will your message be to them?
Oh my gosh. I probably wouldn't say anything. I think there's too many voices
to be.
There's too many people yelling at each other right now. So I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to yell at. I wouldn't want to add to the yelling. I might say, if anybody likes Coherence, come meet me over here. Let's just separate and have some fun and talk about things that we like.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And have our own party.
Yeah. Do you have any last words?
Well, I'm just so grateful for people like you reaching out. It really means a lot to me when I hear from people around the world that have seen the movie. It was a very specific hope and fantasy when we made it that it would do this, that this would be happening.
Yeah.
I thought when we were making it, I thought this would be incredible if this worked and it actually like reached, you know, people around the world, and even maybe inspired some new filmmakers to make their own thing. That was absolutely in my mind while we were making it, because it felt like something special was happening. It felt like we were doing this tightrope walk from skyscraper to skyscraper, and we were like, this is amazing, right? This is incredible. This should be something. And then to fast forward years later, and it turned out that was all true. That's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
That's a really amazing feeling.
Yeah. And I should also thank you for responding to our invitation. You're the first filmmaker we interviewed, and we're so excited. And you're really easy to talk. And
oh yeah, I love talking about Coherence because it was such a positive experience, and I love the actors, and I loved everybody that worked on it. So it's very, very much my pleasure to talk about it.